Good morning, folks. And we got some more news regarding Star Wars, and it's all the big hoopla on the Twitter and the YouTubes and whatever. Kevin Feige from Marvel is coming down into the Disney franchise. Wow, big surprise, I know. So, makes sense to have a guy who makes billions of bucks in one franchise doing movies to go to another franchise doing movies. And hopefully that can transition well. I don't know all the studios he has to talk to and communicate with, all the new people he has to shake hands and trust with, getting stories out the door, getting scripts out the door, getting people to follow that production line. Big, big fiasco. I'm not the expert, but good luck, Mr. Feige. I think we could all agree that he's done a relatively excellent job with Marvel, and hopefully he can bring back the confidence of whatever happened with Episode 8 and, Solo. So, not a big surprise of news. We're excited about projects with Kathy and Lucasfilm team. Okay. Not only in terms of Star Wars, but also Indiana Jones. Interesting. So that'd be curious for him to touch. And reaching into other parts of the company, including Children of the Blood and Bone, with Emma Watts and Fox. I am not familiar with this series. Interesting. With the close of Skywalker, Kathy is pursuing a new era in Star Wars storytelling. And knowing what a diehard fan Kevin is, I don't think Kevin has to be a diehard fan. I think anyone who's been this successful would make sense to jump into something else. Obviously, it helps to have enthusiasm. I haven't met too many people who aren't enthusiastic about Star Wars or most Marvel stories. So great, good on Kevin. Maybe he's one of those hardcore fans. That would be awesome. So this is all good stuff. Yes, Last Jedi divided audiences. Yeah, it's kind of good to bring that up in this article. So, yep, 2.9 billion surpassed Avatar. Avengers Endgame, which I still have not seen. I probably should see that one time soon. And of course, they're bringing X-Men back because X-Men is now into the Disney fold, so they can put the X-Men characters into the Marvel franchise, which I don't know why that took so long, but thank goodness for that. So Kenny has been president of Lucasfilm since 2012. She is one of the very few women in top executive jobs at Disney. I don't think that's true. But she was picked for the job by Lucas, and he's not too happy about that, as far as I recall, at least from my previous post. And yeah, he sold 4.1 billion in shares. In September 2018, she renewed her contract for 3 years. Okay, so Kennedy is with us for 3 more years, unless something really bad happens, which you never know come December. But this whole talk about she was one of the very few women in top executive jobs. All we have to do is go into the internet, really, and just search for women in management roles, or just look for the actual management, past and present. Susan, lead independent director. Mary, Safra, Maria. That's 4 women out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 men. That sounds pretty good for the board of directors. Here's Iger again. Christine, Xenia, Jane. 1, 2, 3, 4 men, 3 women under Robert. I guess if you want to count Robert as one, so 5 men, 3 women. They're not non-existent. They're just not in the majority. This is not a big deal. Here's Kennedy. She's president of Lucasfilm. Linwin, Pippa, Lori, Carrie, Vicky, Blair, Megan, Lynn, Rhonda. I mean, who cares? There's so many women here. Who says this anymore? And you have to wonder why that's even relevant. Why is that even an argument? There's not enough women on the executive boards. It's so? Do women suddenly make the stories and content better? Do the fans really care who's behind the scenes? What the balance of male and female genitalia does to production? I don't think so. So far, the 4 Star Wars films produced for Disney have grossed almost $4.5 billion. But while Feige has presided over a mostly seamless rollout of Marvel, reinvigorating the Star Wars franchise has not been a smooth process. Okay. So now he talks about how Rogue One had to do reshoots, and they brought in new people. The same with Solo. They did reshoots. They brought in new people. And I don't think Solo actually did break even. I don't believe so, unless you disregard all the marketing budget, which we still don't know what that cost. So this caused this year Bob Iger to rethink how to produce content for Star Wars. I just think that we might have put a little too much in the marketplace too fast. I kind of agree with that, just because I prefer things to take their proper time baking before they come out. But when you're talking about a franchise like Star Wars, you can literally do almost anything and make money off it. You just put Star Wars on it, you have a competent writer, you have a competent director, and that movie's going to sell. One potential trouble sign for Lucasfilm and Disney is allegedly disappointing attendance of new Star Wars attractions in Anaheim. Okay, so here we have the person who's been in charge of the parks for Disney, who's left after 15 years. And you could argue why that is, whether she was fired or left or whatever, whether you feel responsible. They put $1 billion into all these wonderful parks, and the return has not been coming. So obviously they have to wait for years and years for this money to be recouped. That's a typical business application. You put all your risks up front. You say, okay, I'm going to go with this. I believe I'm going to make money later on. Why they expected to recoup things so early, I don't know, unless that has been the precedent we've seen with Disney. But when you start making a Star Wars franchise theme park, it's very specific. So you're already limiting your audience at Disney. Even though Star Wars is probably the biggest franchise in the entertainment world, you're still limiting your franchise. So Bob is still more positive. He has a little more positive outlook on things. Guest satisfaction, interest in the attractions in the land is extremely high. I don't know where he's getting his numbers or where that opinion comes from, but this is a long-term business plan, and who knows how it's going to turn out. It could flop on them. That's business. That's how it works. But it's kind of an obvious thing that you're going to eventually recoup losses as the goal of any businessman or business plan or model is. And the fact they put so much money into it is kind of odd, but who knows how good those things are. It's hard to get an objective opinion on these attractions when you're talking about a theme park for both kids and adults, because they have various bars where you could have alcoholic drinks and what have you. How powerful is that nostalgia trip to take your kids out? Like, how old is that demographic? I don't know. Maybe if it was more released in the 90s or the 2000s, then yeah, maybe not this late. It's kind of hard to say. Disney has been criticized for its lack of women in top roles. Again, where? I want to know the critics who are saying this, Kim Masters, and why you're listening to them. Why anyone would listen to them. So any move to displace Kennedy may create perception problems. In his Times interview, Iger acknowledged that women and people of color were not well represented, but said, "I'll change that before I leave." And I don't know why that's an issue. That must be a Hollywood thing, that if you say, hey, I'm gonna put minorities, or I'm gonna put people who aren't white and male in this position, you're like, does anyone really care aside from those on the left or left-leaning? I don't think so. I don't think anyone cares how their steak gets to them on their table. All they care is that it's a quality steak. So this idea that we have to listen to critics who are criticizing executives, which there's plenty of women. I mean, it's not 50-50, nor should it be. I mean, what if it was like 60-40 in favor of women? Like, would we argue, well, there's not enough men on the board of directors? I don't think we'd care. I don't think we'd care if it was 100% women. I don't think anyone would care. It's whether or not the products we get are any good. And it doesn't help when you know Kathleen Kennedy has an agenda and she's saying we got to get more women in this, we got to do this and that, the force is female. I think this is silly. Your ideology means nothing to the product that you produce, or at least it should. So while Disney and Lucasfilm have scaled back development of Star Wars, due to the poor performance of Solo, it is still working on future movies. That's right. So we have D&D working on future projects. We have Rian Johnson and his potential trilogy. We have Disney Plus, which is perhaps the most positive thing out of all this is The Mandalorian. That's the one thing that we can look forward to. Apparently Rogue One is getting a prequel, a whole series of that, which is interesting. And of course, the fan favorite Obi-Wan series. So this is all good news. It's a little silly with the whole female aspect, but it's all good news. It's not unexpected, and it's hopefully the sign of good things to come. Maybe Kennedy will learn her lesson of the next writer-director she hires. We're not sure, but this is all good stuff. If you guys have any comments on this, I'd love to hear about them beneath the video. Have yourself a great morning, and thank you very much for watching.